Hello, my name is Masha and today I want to teach you how to make this beautiful bracelet. This bracelet is very simple, and it's also very similar to the classic chevron. There are only 2 repeating rows, making it very easy to memorize as well. If you are a complete beginner and you've never made bracelets before, I highly recommend you start with the classic chevron first. And once you've made that, this could be your second bracelet. This is just a slight step up from that, but it looks so cool. I have a video called The Beginner's Guide to Friendship Bracelets, which is a helpful overview for beginners about everything friendship bracelets and where to start. I recommend you start there, then watch my classic chevron tutorial. And if you need extra help on the knots, I also have a basic knots tutorial that goes over each of the individual knots. Going into this tutorial, I expect that you are familiar with the basic knots, so I will mostly just be naming them and not actually showing you in depth how to make them. I decided to start this bracelet in a teardrop loop. I feel like it complements the pattern really well, and it looks beautiful with this design. In this video, I will show you and I will explain to you how to make a teardrop loop for this bracelet, but I do also have a separate tutorial on that, which will be linked in the card and in the description if you need any extra help. You don't have to start in a teardrop loop, you can just do a basic loop, or just start with an overhand knot, and then follow the tutorial as is. You just need to get the strings arranged correctly, but I go over the string order as well. But I do highly encourage you try the teardrop loop. It's not as difficult as it seems, and it works so well with this pattern. All that being said, let's actually get into the tutorial. I wrote a book! It's called The Beginner's Guide to Friendship Bracelets, and it is in fact a guide for beginners on friendship bracelets. It talks about everything you need to know as a beginner friendship bracelet maker, and it teaches you all of the basics in photo tutorials, from how to make the basic knots, loops, patterns, and also simple bracelets. It comes out on August 23rd in the US and about a month later everywhere else, and you can pre-order now. It's available for pre-order pretty much anywhere you typically buy books. And if you do pre-order, which I highly encourage you do, you can enter a giveaway to win one of 4 packages containing a bracelet, a bunch of my favorite sparkly, multicolored and metallic string, some materials, and some washi tape as well. To enter the giveaway, you need to send a screenshot of proof of purchase to my publisher, Rocky Nook, on their website. The link to that will be in the description. For this bracelet, you are going to need 5 colors. I'm going with the colors within the pattern, so I've got 2 sort of teal colors, 2 pink colors, and 1 white. The white one is going to be the outline, of course. You're going to need 6 strings of 1 meter in length for the white string, or if you're going to do a loop, that would be 3 strings of 2 meters that you're going to fold. And for each of these strings, you're going to need 2 strings per color, 1 meter in length, or if you're doing a loop, that'll be 1 string per color, 2 meters in length. So for this bracelet, I'm doing a basic loop. I have a separate tutorial on basic loops, which will be linked in the description, but I also thought I would just quickly explain here. Fold your strings in half, decide where your loop is going to start, and secure your strings to your workspace at that point. Grab the string you want to make the loop with, mine is going to be white, and proceed to make forward-backward knots with that string onto the entire bundle of string at the same time. So forward-backward knot is half of a forward knot, and half of a backward knot, like so. And just repeat that over and over until the loop reaches the length that you want. At any point you can stop, fold this loop, and do like a visual check to see if it's the length that you want. I'm actually going to stop here because that's the length that I want for my loop. I am now going to secure this to my workspace, and a great way to do it with loops I found is just placing a string kind of in between that loop so that you have something to grip onto, and then using tape or whatever else you want to secure that bracelet to your workspace. I also then go over that with washi tape because I like how it looks when I'm filming. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a teardrop loop. I also have a separate tutorial for this, which explains how to do the teardrop loop for pretty much any normal pattern, and I'll leave that linked in the description. But again, I'm going to quickly explain how to do this for this specific bracelet. Really, all you need to know is the string order, and if you know how to make the teardrop loop, that's enough information to make one. But I'm going to show you a bit more in detail here. If you already know, feel free to skip around. There's timestamps in the description specifically for that. So if we look at the pattern, I'm going to start my bracelet at the row of white. So I need my strings to be arranged in the specific order that the pattern suggests so that I can do that row. This pattern is symmetrical, and if we look at the first row of white, we can notice that on both sides, the first string is the light pink, then the white, then the light blue, then the white, then the dark blue, then the white, and finally the pink. So that is the string order. Let me show you how to actually bring out the strings in that order. So again, we're starting off with the light pink. We're going to take that string out from the right side and we're going to do a forward knot on the entire bundle of strings at the same time. That way we're just bringing out this string and we're leaving all of the rest of the strings in that bundle. Next up, we've got a white string, so we can choose any of the white strings. And again, we're going to do a forward knot with that white string onto the entire bundle, except this time we're excluding that pink string that we already took out. Next we go in with the light blue, and that does a forward knot on the entire bundle except of those strings that we already took out. So one by one we're bringing these strings out, separating them from the bundle. Then again with the white, a forward knot on the remaining bundle, excluding the strings we already took out. Then we go in with the blue. And finally we just have 2 strings left. We need to bring the white one out. So we're going to do a forward knot with that white one onto the remaining pink string, which is going to be in the center, so we're not doing a knot with it for now. So that's what we did on the right side. On the left side, it's the exact same order, but of course we need to do backward knots. So that light pink string is going to do a backward knot on the entire bundle. We're bringing that string out individually. And then we continue on in that same order. We do the white string now. That does a backward knot on the entire bundle except for the pink string that we already brought out. And then we do the teal, the white, the dark blue, the white, and then the red string, well the pink string is going to be left over. So this is what I'm saying, you only really need to know the string order to do this properly, if you already know how to make a teardrop loop, which I highly recommend you learn because it's so fun. So there we go, our teardrop loop is nice and prepped. All we need to do now is connect these 2 strings by doing a forward knot between them, or any knot really, since they're the same color. Whatever knot you do doesn't really matter. But I'm going to leave that for later. Actually, I'm going to show you a little bit of a trick. I like connecting 2 halves of my teardrop loop after I already have some knots, and I can go over that connection straight away with some more strings. So I'm going to hold off on that because that reduces the risk of that sort of middle knot coming apart, because that's really annoying when that happens. Alright, let's get into the actual tutorial. There are only 3 repeating rows, and they are actually all quite simple. We're going to start off with pretty much the typical chevron row, except the first knot on each side is going to be a reverse knot. Usually with a chevron row, we just take the outermost strings. The one on the left does a row of forward knots, the one on the right does a row of backward knots, but this time we need to do with the white string, right? But our white strings aren't on the edge. Our white strings are the second string here. So what we need to do first is a reverse knot. So on the left, that white string is going to do a backward forward knot onto the pink string, and then a row of forward knots. And same on the right, that white string is the second from the edge. So it's going to do a forward backward knot on that pink string, and then a row of backward knots. So hopefully that makes sense. There's just one slight variation from the regular chevron. And of course, since this is our first row, as I said, I don't want to connect these until I have strings to go over that connection with. It just makes it easier, reduces any risks of that not coming apart, because connecting a teardrop loop can be notoriously annoying. So I'm going to do a backward forward knot on the left with this white string onto the pink string. And again, a backward forward knot is half of a backward knot, and then the second half of a forward knot. Then I'm going to put that pink string aside, and I'm going to do forward knots along the rest of these strings, except the 2 middle strings for now. We haven't made the connection yet, so I'm not going over that, but if you are rewatching this and you are repeating this bracelet tutorial, at this point you would do the full chevron to the middle. But for now, since I haven't connected these yet, it would just be forward knots on these 4 strings, one by one, with the white string. There we go. Again, if you're repeating this, you would make that row until the center and go over all of the bits, just like in a normal chevron. But for now, I'm going to go to the right side, and I'm going to do the exact same thing, but obviously in reverse. So once again, a forward backward knot with the white string on the pink string. That will be half of a forward knot, like so, and half of a backward knot, like so, creating one full forward backward knot. Then this white string is going to do backward knots until the center, but for now that's just going to be these 4 strings, one by one in order. Alright, so now I'm going to explain how to connect the teardrop loop and how to go over that connection straight away for the first row. So if you're rewatching this, skip this bit because it's irrelevant. It's only important for the first bit if you're doing a teardrop loop. Alright, so to connect the teardrop loop, you need to connect these two pink strings, which we already discussed. So I'm just going to do a forward knot between the two, but I'm going to do it very carefully because teardrop loops can be very annoying to connect. They tend to sort of want to spill apart, as you can see. So I've kind of already made the second half of my knot, but I'm still trying to pull that first half up so that the strings are in the exact position that I want. And I'm going to very carefully sort of tie that knot, maybe while holding my finger down. There we go. So that knot is very tight and it's not like stretched out. So now we've connected the strings, and now those same white strings that we were doing that chevron row with can now make knots onto the pink string. So the one on the left just does a forward knot on the pink string. And then the white string we were working with on the right does a backward knot on the other pink string. And then the two white strings do a knot between each other, thus completing the chevron. And the chevron row, the first row of this bracelet, is now fully complete. So the reason that I do it that way, and I do it that way pretty much anytime I do a teardrop loop, or anytime I do like two triangle ends, for example. Like this is another bracelet that I'm currently working with. I did those two triangle ends separately, I did those bits separately, and then I connected it, and then I went over the connection. I'll leave the pattern for this in the description if you want to do it, although it's very advanced, just FYI. The reason I do that is because it reduces the risk, as I said, of that knot coming apart. So there you go. That's the first row. It's actually very simple. It's just because I was doing a teardrop loop and I was trying to explain all those pieces, looked a little bit more complicated. In reality, that first row is literally just a chevron row, except the two knots on the edges are reverse knots. So on the left we do a backward forward knot, on the right we do a forward backward knot, and then we do the chevron. So again, super easy, just a little bit more complex because I was explaining the teardrop loop, which I really wanted to explain because I love it. Next up is nearly a chevron row, except the first two knots on either side are going to be different. So instead of taking that outermost string and doing forward knots, on this side I mean, we are first going to do two backward knots onto the outermost string. So the outermost string is this light pink string. Next one to it is the teal, and then the white. So we're going to do a backward knot onto the pink string with the teal. It's going to move, and then we're going to do a backward knot with the white onto the pink. So let's do that. Two backward knots onto the pink string first. Alright, so now that those two backward knots are done, this pink string continues by just doing a row of forward knots, just like a typical chevron row. So in this case, it's going to be 4 forward knots, one on this dark blue, then on the white, then on the pink, and then on the white. Same thing, but in reverse on the other side. So we start off with 2 forward knots. The teal is going to do a forward knot on the pink, and then the white is going to do a forward knot on that pink. Then this pink string is going to do a chevron row, so a row of backward knots until the center, where it's going to meet the other pink string and do a knot on that one as well. So there's going to be 4 backward knots on the blue, white, pink, and white, and then another backward knot to connect with the other pink string. So just a normal chevron row. And there we go, the second row is now complete. And that is literally it. You just have to repeat those 2 rows over and over again until you reach the length that you want. Of course, the colors have now changed, but the knots and the orders are exactly the same. So if you remember at the beginning, we did a normal chevron row, except with a slight variation. On the left, we did a backward forward knot with the white string onto the string at the edge, which is now the teal, and then we did a chevron row. And on the right, we did a forward backward knot with the white string, which is now going to be on the teal. And then we did a row of backward knots connecting them in the center. So that was row 1. And then we just did that row we did again. 2 backward knots first, followed by a chevron row. And then on this side, 2 forward knots first, followed by a row of chevron. So you just need to repeat those 2 rows over and over again until the bracelet reaches the length that you want. So I'm going to go finish this off camera and I'll show you the result once I'm done. And this is how the bracelet turned out. I absolutely love it. It is such a gorgeous bracelet. I also really enjoy the colors here. I think they go really well together and it's such a fun summery vibe. I really enjoyed making this. I made this bracelet as part of my 24-hour challenge video. And if you're watching this on release, that video isn't posted yet. It will be next week though. And after that video is published, I'll leave it linked in the card and in the description for you. That was a really fun challenge to film. I finished the bracelet with a triangle end and twisted ties. I have tutorials for both of these, which will also be linked in the description if you want to try them out. For each tie, I separated the white and the color and twisted them separately, and I absolutely love how that looks. So yeah, I love this bracelet. It was really fun to make. And if you also make this friendship bracelet, make sure to tag me on Instagram if you do. Before I go, I want to remind you that my book, The Beginner's Guide to Friendship Bracelets, comes out on August 23rd in the US and about a month later everywhere else. And it's available for pre-order now anywhere you typically buy books. If you do pre-order, make sure to send a screenshot of your order number to my publisher at rockynook.com/friendship to be entered to win in the giveaway. I also want to give a special shout out to my patrons and especially my top supporters. Thank you so much for supporting my videos. I truly appreciate it. If you also want to support the work that I do on this channel, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. But in any case, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!